Often when it comes to speedrunning, people talk about the toughest speedrun may be. There are numerous factors that can be used to decide this, such as tricks, difficulty, and length for instance. While this is mostly a matter of opinion and there can be multiple answers to what the hardest game may be, I firmly believe that one of the hardest speedrun categories to complete is Zombies Ate My Neighbors 100%. Before we get into the specific details, let's talk about Zombies Ate My Neighbors as a game. As a game, Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a top-down running gun. Its gameplay sees massive difficulty spikes, and this game has a reputation for being one of the classic childhood games that nobody can beat. This is mostly due to extremely difficult enemy encounters that are mandatory on the boss stages, since if you couldn't beat the encounter, the level often wouldn't be able to be completed. One of the most notorious examples being level 20 with the Snakewood's. As well, you only traditionally receive 3 lives, and while you could get more lives from both pickups and point scoring, it capped out at 3. And many of the game's more difficult sections could end poorly if not careful, even for the most seasoned of speedrunners. Traditionally, to beat a level in this game, you need to rescue all the available neighbors and find the exit door. In order to beat the game, you only need to beat each of the game's levels and proceed to the final credits level that happens once you defeat the final boss, Dr. Tongue. The standard any % route only requires you to save the minimal amount of neighbors per level. The reason why is because a level is considered complete once all the living neighbors have been saved, meaning you could just murder every neighbor and only save 1 per level with some restrictions. These restrictions are, getting 40,000 points will cause another neighbor to spawn, and killing certain bosses, such as the Satanic Toddler, can spawn in an additional neighbor which will add to the neighbor count. 100% is a category that officially only has 1 human runner. This is due to the harsh requirements that are required to beat it. These are, beat all 49 levels and the 6 bonus levels in the game, beat every single level with saving every neighbor with the exception of 1 who is bugged, and to beat every Titanic Toddler fight and save the additional neighbor that comes from that. In total, this is 552 neighbors to save. On the surface, it just seems to be a standard collection speedrun. The real difficulty, however, comes from how punishing things are if you aren't exactly right. The speedrun is considered invalidated if any of the 552 neighbors die. In addition, you can also lose the run due to normal game overs, which is losing all your lives, or if you forget to access the bonus levels, which require you to get a special bonus token, many of which are locked behind different item gates which can be RNG dependent based on what items you've gathered. Let's break down how and why all these factors make Zombies Ate My Neighbors 100% one of the hardest speedruns to complete. So the primary goal, as we mentioned, is rescuing every neighbor in the game. As a total, we need the 552 in order to say we have collected every neighbor. From the 55 levels, we have a varying length of difficulty in saving the neighbors. Excluding the inherent routing of the category, the biggest obstacle is the fact that, like the player, almost every neighbor in the game can be killed by the game's enemies. This isn't too big of a deal early on, since many of the neighbors are in easy-to-save spots, and the enemies as a whole are pretty harmless. As the game progresses, there are some more difficult aspects that come into play. The enemies start having brutal spawns near some of the neighbors and have extreme mobility, some leaping over walls, flying, having ranged attacks, and more importantly, just being faster than you are. Traditionally, all of these can be avoided with optimal gameplay, but many runs can instantly die if even one thing goes wrong and a single neighbor dies. Speaking of neighbors dying, some neighbors are time-gated. One harsh example is the tourist neighbors will transform into werewolf enemies if left unattended for too long, which both loses the neighbor and counts as an instant death. Another factor, as mentioned earlier, is proper ammo management or item management. Some neighbors are locked behind specific doors or walls, and the only way you can get them is to either have a key to open the door, or a rocket launcher which can break open the door or the wall. The rocket launcher is especially important since it's the only way to break down walls of any kind. Finally, we have skeleton keys, which are exceptionally rare items which are the only means to open the skeleton key doors, which lock both bonus stages and certain neighbors. It should also be mentioned that there is a bug in the game in level 36, Monster Phobia, in which the final cheerleader to be saved will sometimes not spawn in. If this glitch occurs, the run is instantly dead since you will not be able to attain her by any means, leaving you with 551 out of 552 collectible neighbors. Many of the game's bonus stages are hidden around specific maps. These maps are Level 1, Level 9, Level 12, Level 17, Level 22, and Level 33. In order to access bonus stages, you need to either blow up hidden walls or even use an extremely rare item, the skeleton key, to get a bonus stage unlocked. Afterward, you would also need to make sure you didn't mess up during the said stage and let any neighbors die. Bonus stages stress the importance of inventory management. Improper inventory management could kill a run. More importantly, to even get a run started, you need to manipulate a rocket launcher into the first level. The way this manipulation works is, whenever you pick up an item, it checks the frame which the game is on, and if that frame matches an item pickup, you get that item. By starting the game at a specific point and then beelining it straight over to an item pickup, you can possibly manipulate any item in the game. This is frequently used on the 80% run to get skeleton keys and can also be used to manipulate other good items such as speed shoes or rocket launchers. However, if done incorrectly, you can even get damaged if you are unlucky enough. There are RNG drops that require starting the game on a specific frame so you can time 2 perfect pickups to give the items needed for both the speedrun and access to the second level of the whole game. To put it lightly, Zombies Ate My Neighbors isn't a kind game. Looking at speedrunning as a whole, there are plenty of tough games to both learn and master, and while Zombies Ate My Neighbors may be one of the stranger picks, it's hard to say if there's any game out there that is as punishing as Zombies Ate My Neighbors. In most games, if you end up failing for whatever reason, you can still try again within the same game. In Zombies Ate My Neighbors, there is virtually zero room for error when it comes to the neighbors. If a single one of those neighbors dies, you have lost the run and it's over. One may argue that a game's difficulty comes from the top level of perfecting a run, but I would argue if most people can't even beat a single run of a category, that's a larger testament to its difficulty as one of the hardest speedruns in existence. When taken all together, the base barrier of entry for this category alone requires frame-perfect manipulation of items, perfect neighbor management, optimal item management, and the base difficulty this game has already built a reputation for. That being said, I believe that Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a top contender for one of the most difficult speedruns of all time. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to give it a like. As well, if you'd like to hear more videos such as this one, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you have a different opinion on what the hardest speedrun may be, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Stay cool out there!